There's a lot of different ways to describe mindfulness, but in my journey, what I've discovered for myself, in my experience, mindfulness is the ability to focus attention. And when we focus attention, we are also simultaneously managing the way that we react or respond to our environment. In my research, the science has shown that the body actually is scanning the environment. It's scanning information about the environment before we actually come up with a thought. Before a thought arises in our mind, the body's already made a judgment. And this discussion has gotten into the place of free will. Is there really free will if the body's already making a decision? And that's really the crux of the matter. The answer is there really isn't free will, in the sense that the body's already decided whether or not we're safe or not. And then we respond, the thoughts come up in our mind, and then our thoughts are part of the response mechanism that says, oh, I'm not safe, and therefore I'm feeling a certain way. That's totally reactive or responsive to what's already occurred. So there's a great debate about whether or not there is actually free will. The environment speaks to the body listens to the environment. So the body experiences first, and what the body feels, the mind thinks, and then what the mind thinks, the body feels. And that's the mechanism, that's the feedback mechanism that we find ourselves in. Good or bad, that's what we experience. The body is in attraction or aversion. This is what we understand by some of the work that Bruce Lipton's done in cellular biology, where he looks at the cell in a petri dish and he puts nutrients across on the other side of the cell, and the cell moves towards the nutrients. If he puts a toxin in there, the cell moves away. Our body's made up of hundreds of trillions of cells, and so when we're in the environment, we're constantly moving towards or moving away from the environment, the experience. When we're moving away from something, we're in what's called aversion, and when we're in aversion, we're in fear. So the body reacts by releasing the appropriate hormones that rush throughout the body and attach to the cell receptors, and then those cells, the message is that we're in protection, we're in aversion, we're in contraction, we're moving away from the environment to protect ourselves. The alternate, if we're in attraction, then we feel safe, we're expanded, we move towards something, and we're at ease. So it's important to recognize that we can choose, we can make a choice by observing what the body's doing and choose to move away from aversion and move towards attraction, and do that consciously, mindfully. A skill we can develop, this muscle of the observer, recognizes when we're not focusing attention. So we back up one step and realize that we first observe when we're not focusing attention, and then we choose to focus attention, and then we can direct attention to where we want to apply it. So we have to develop this muscle of awareness first, this observer state, so that we know when we're in attraction or aversion and make choices as opposed to react all the time. To learn how to become more mature emotionally and how to regulate our bodies is becoming aware of the fact that we are in the emotional soup. Sometimes I like to say that someone walks up to the fish in the aquarium and says to the fish, "How's the water?" And if the fish could talk, the fish would look back and might say, "What water?" When we come into this physical form, that's the water. We experience everything from inside the body, inside physical form. And it's become normal for us. So we say, like, what body? I mean, what's the problem? Well, the reality is the emotions in our bodies, thousands and thousands of emotions, and they're embedded in our memory through the way we are born and come into life, and they become part of the reference that we use to pull experience forward. So whatever we experienced in the past becomes part of the present. And these are all emotional memories. These are all stored in this great library, this biochemical machine that we're inhabiting. And so the first step is just recognizing that we're in this big swamp. We're in this big bag of emotions, this big bag of hormones, and that's not who we are. Our essence, our awareness is something greater than just reacting to these emotions. But first we have to step back and recognize that we have a choice and that it's better to choose than react. And so we start working on this mechanism, this capacity to observe and notice first, and then exercise choice through applying our attention. So mindfulness, practicing mindfulness, develops skills of observing. If you looked at a palette, like a painter has a palette and he has 12 colors on his palette, and those are the colors he works with, and every painting he paints is going to be some combination of those 12 colors. But in reality, as you say, there may be 84,000 emotions available to us. If those 12 colors represent emotions and we only have 12, then everything's going to look pretty much the same. We're going to experience life through those 12 emotions. But if there's 84,000 to choose from, then if we know how to choose those emotions, how to be safe, expanding and experimenting and becoming those emotions, then the world's going to look different because we have 84,000 different possible colors to work with. So mindfulness gives us the objectivity. It gives us the skills to observe and notice what's available to us. And then we can choose from that place. We can choose to access not just the 12 emotions that we've been conditioned to think that's all we have to work with, but we can now access thousands of emotions and expand the way we experience our reality. Yeah, you use the word subjectivity. You know, the king had subjects. They were subject to his rule. Well, imagine that the king inside of our psyche is the ego. We are subject to the ego, which is fear-based. The ego is always looking to take care of us and to protect us. And are we safe? Is this good? Is this bad? Is this up? This down? Is this that? This that? So we're constantly looking for ways to protect ourselves and feel good about ourselves. Well, our access is only through the conditioned mind, the subjective mind. We're subject to that. When we step out of the subjective state, we can develop the capacity to be objectively aware of what's happening. And therefore, remember, the subjective state is also reactive. So we move from subjective and reactive to objective and selective. That's a totally different way of being. I haven't studied the ADDH and ADD and all those things, but just from a distance, it seems as though we're becoming less, we have less skills in focusing attention, and we're distracted. So everything about mindfulness, when we go into the exercises themselves, is about focusing attention, eyes open or eyes closed. We're literally doing exercises that change the neurophysiology of the human body, both in the body and in the brain itself. The science says that when we focus attention, it's a different part of the brain neural circuits that are activated, and that the subjective state is a different part of the brain. And by focusing attention, by stepping out of the subjective state and focusing attention and observing, it releases us from the conditioned mind, those subjective neural circuits. And it actually activates a new part of the brain that can grow and become developed. The term used is called the direct experience. And a direct experience is objective. So we have to create objectivity to create more objectivity. And it's represented in the brain circuits. So the human being has the ability to rewire. You've heard the phrase, neurons that fire together wire together. It's true. So we have the ability within our own body-mind complex to go inside with focused attention and literally be our own surgeon. Well, first to encourage them that it's possible, that they understand I would want people to understand that this transformation is possible. It's not theoretical. Knowing that it's possible, then I would ask, well, what do I need to do to prepare myself to take on this journey, to begin this journey? What skills do I need? If I was going to climb Mount Everest, the first thing I'd do is say, well, what equipment do I need? What clothing do I need? Do I need any training? Is my body going to easily adapt to the lack of oxygen at 29,000 feet? Probably not. I probably need to do some training there. So the first thing I do is look outside of myself to someone who could help me prepare both my body, my mind, and the physical equipment that I need and practice with it so that I can climb the mountain successfully. It's unlikely that anyone would go to Mount Everest and start climbing alone in their shorts and tennis shoes. The likelihood of them getting very far is pretty slim. Certainly the likelihood of them reaching the top of a mountain is highly improbable. So I think what we have to do when we're thinking about mindfulness is we team up with people who have climbed the mountain, who understand how to use the equipment, to understand what clothing is appropriate, and to practice with them so that the probability, the likelihood of achieving the summit would be increased because we prepared for that journey. It's no different from mindfulness. I encourage you to join with us to begin this journey into mindfulness. Join with people like us who have climbed this mountain, who have walked this path, and understand what's important for you and your success on this journey. We have many courses. We have many different offerings. I encourage you to come with us and join with us in these journeys into your interior, developing these skills of focused attention, and then developing the capacity to take these skills out into the world wherever you go. So I encourage you to take advantage of this free audio. In the audio, we will share with you the important aspects of the mindfulness practice, specifically around posture and breathing. Posture and breathing are the practices, and they are the clear signals to the autonomic nervous system that you are safe. Safety is the key to your internal spiritual journey. If you don't feel safe, you will not enter into the journey. You will not fully experience it. In the free audio, we will talk about the importance of posture, breathing, and creating this feeling in the mind-body, of safety. What the body feels, the mind thinks. What the mind thinks, the body feels. There is a feedback loop there, and it is unconscious. It's moving very quickly, and we simply ride that. We become part of the habitual nature of this feedback mechanism. The challenge we have is recognizing that some of the information that the body's felt from the environment, maybe as a young child or as a young boy or girl, whatever experiences you have in life, it's recorded. It becomes part of our emotional assets. And some of that information is not helpful as we become adults. It's outdated. It's not appropriate. Maybe your mother or father or both your parents didn't consider you to be important, and so you felt you weren't worthy. So maybe you had shame or some sort of sense of not being worthy. The mind-body records that. It becomes part of our experience, and then it becomes part of the way we see the world in the future as adults. So it's important to recognize that this feedback mechanism is constantly going on. And unless you can find a place outside of it to observe it and notice what's happening, you're always going to be tumbling around inside of it. So one of the things we do in the courses, the many courses we teach, this is a fundamental principle of developing the capacity to observe and notice what the body-mind, mind-body is doing and feeling, and you recognize that you are objectively observing and noticing that you're really not that. And that's the first step to freedom. In our work, we bring you to a place to recognize that you are always making choices. Always making choices, whether they're conscious or unconscious. Being in physical form in the human body, you're getting a tremendous amount of information that's coming up into your experience, good or bad. And it's important to recognize that that information and those feelings, those emotions, are not who you are. That beyond this place of experiencing the physical form, there's something very special that always was, is now, and always will be. And that is your infinite nature. Mindfulness practices are the first step to recognizing you're not the physical form, that you are not comprised of all the emotions of your years on the planet. You are not the sum total of all these emotional experiences, but in fact there's something beyond that. There's something very special beyond that. In order to access this place, you first must recognize that the illusion of physical form is just an illusion. There's something very, very special beyond the illusion of form. In these courses, in the work we do together with you, we incrementally take you down that path. We take you into that conversation so that you feel safe in understanding that everything that you've been attached to up to this point in your life is not who you are, and that it's safe to let go of those attachments, knowing that there's something beyond that letting go. You might ask yourself, well, if I'm not that, then what am I? If I'm not that, then who is this? And the answer is, the I am that you will experience is that divine being, is that special presence that you had forgotten. And as you come to remember and you start embracing this new place from occurring, everything changes. Everything in your world changes. Your perception of reality, your ability to reach out, your ability to be seen, the ability to see others. It's as if you were giving a whole new reference to experience yourself over again. We can only get to this place first by feeling safe and developing these skills to hold this place permanently. So it's not a peak experience, but in fact it's a transformational experience, and that you always had and have all the skills you need to do this. We're outside of this process assisting you through conversation and supporting you, giving you the skills, the mindfulness exercises. When you're ready to commit to this process, transformation will begin.